Perfect. We're live on both platforms. Going to give Facebook a second to just alert everyone that we're on. Great. I do already see several folks that are starting to hop on.
Yeah, Parker's on.
Always. He's so great. And as you guys are hopping onto the broadcast, please make sure that you go ahead and start giving us a thumbs up or commenting so we can see you. Just takes me a second to also get the word out on my end as well. So appreciate the patience. Okay, well, good morning and happy Monday to everyone. I am excited to start off another wonderful week. Of course, we have our mayor with us on our Monday morning broadcast, but before we segment over to that, I want to go ahead and cover some of the housekeeping items that I do on my daily broadcast. So you'd think I'd have this down packed and you guys are probably sick of it. So I'll try and be fast. I'll try and be as colorful as possible. If this is your first time on our page, please make sure that you hit the like button and hit the follow. When you hit the follow button, it actually alerts you when we go live or when we post fresh content. Facebook allows you to change those notification settings, but if you're not following, then you'll likely not see anything we post unless you yourself go to the page. So let's save the step by making sure you're not only liking the page, but you follow it as well, and that your notification settings are turned on. Of course, if you are a returning viewer to us, we so welcome you back and thank you for doing your part in sharing out this broadcast to everyone in your network so they can know things that are available to them, resources, updates, news, and of course, so they have an opportunity to also engage with us into the future. So welcome back to our pre-existing viewers. Now, our videos are available to you at any point in time to rewatch, replay, pause, come back to it. They are located in the video section of this Facebook page. They're also located on our YouTube channel, Westminster Chamber of Commerce, where at the very same time that we are streaming this live on Facebook, it is actually streamed on our YouTube channel as well. Of course, we get the question of what other social media outlets or ways can you know about what's going on in and around not only Westminster Chamber, but all the areas that we really partner with and serve. You can connect with us on all of the other social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram at Westy Chamber, and of course on LinkedIn at Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And I see with us several people. I see Dave Carpenter and Parker Brown. I also see Monique, and I see Wayne, and I see our past board chairman, Brian Head. Good morning, and hello to you all. Now, there is a comment section below this video. If you are watching on your phone, or if even you're watching on your desktop, you should have this function available to you. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll show up like this with a little red play button that's beside it, which means that Wayne is actually tuning in to this broadcast and sending a nice good morning message to the mayor and of course to myself using the YouTube platform that we've just mentioned. Now, if you're on Facebook, you also have this option as well. Feel free to give us any good morning remarks, any pleasantries you might have, any thoughts for the day, words for the day, super fun things. If you have any questions that are random, this is where you can type them in. Of course, when the mayor starts talking, we'll be taking as many notes as possible into the comment section for you. So if you miss something, please try and capture it through the text, but also know that you can rewind and rewatch at a later point in time. Of course, we'll take up any questions at the end of his update, so make sure that you're ready with questions related to what he shares, or if it's unrelated and we just want to give him a curveball, he's generally pretty in tune with everything that's going on, or he'll get me an answer and turn it around rather quickly for us. So good morning to you as well, Monique and Parker, and of course, Dave Carpenter, good morning. And I also see Jenna Swanson, which is crazy because I just emailed you. So good morning, Jenna. Thank you for hopping onto the broadcast with us. Now, our Mondays are featuring our mayor of the city of Westminster, Mayor Herb Atchison. Mayor, please take this away. I will mute myself and the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Julia. Good morning, everyone. As you can imagine, we have one of our neighbors that made international and national news over the weekend with some things that were raining down out of the sky. But I would tell you that we've been very fortunate with the whole incident. No one was injured. There is some property damage around, but it's still at that. The biggest thing is that no one's hurt. The plane landed again safely at DIA. We know the investigation is undergoing, and a good number of the people who were on the plane got off of that plane, moved their baggage to another plane, got on their trip, and went on to Hawaii. So we're glad they were able to finish it. I do understand from some of the contacts that not everybody chose to get right back on a plane. They were nervous enough before that happened, and they certainly weren't getting back on a plane right away. But in all things, it turned out well. Property damage can be fixed, but luckily no lives were lost and no one was injured. A number of things happening around the state today. We are still in the throes of COVID. We are still in the same situation we've been in for a number of weeks, that the amount of vaccine available to us has continued to be impacted. Last week, it was the storms that took place that stopped the transportation of vaccines. It is my understanding that this week we should be receiving somewhere around 130,000. That was what was supposed to be here last week. But for sure, we don't know how far that's going to go. But we know that a lot of people who were scheduled to get vaccines today have been rescheduled already to later in the week. So we hope those will catch up with us. A piece that continues to come up is, where are we at on the dial? So the dial changes daily. And give me an example, start with Adams County. On the 15th, our infection rate was 106 with a positivity rate of 4. Today, we went back up. Our positivity rate's 117.6. With the infection rate, positivity rate's 5.1. And moving over to Jeffco, same time frame. On the 15th, their infection rate was 115.2 with a positivity rate of 3.5. Today, Jeffco is 81.1 with a positivity rate of 2.9. Now, this is the kind of thing that we have to watch on a daily basis. Last week, our color codes between Jeffco and Adams were just the reverse. Adams was in blue last week. Jeffco was in yellow. Today, they're reversed. Now, this is where the problem is of trying to move from one color band to the other, is you have to stay positive in those color bands for at least a week. Now, even though Adams was in blue, that was not on more than about 2 days in a row because they were spiking from one level to another. Even if we move into a blue category and you can sustain it for the 2 weeks, restaurants and businesses will still be prevented from moving to the green category because of the lack of vaccines and vaccinations. So the governor still has that control on anybody getting any further open. So if you get into the blue status for a while, that's probably going to be the best you can get to. But again, we have to get the county to stay there for the 2 weeks. So those numbers keep moving back. As we talked about last week, where can you get vaccines? Those are still being coordinated through primarily the healthcare providers. A question came up after the call last week: could we start a vaccine center down at the MAC? Well, it's not a problem of having locations. It's the problem of not having the vaccines. And then you have to have one of the healthcare providers provide those through their allocations. So even though you're seeing some areas that are doing some pop-ups, they're not sustainable long-term. Partly is because of the cost of staffing them and having that many of them. Plus, you have to remember, if you get your first shot there, you have to come back there typically to get second. We're seeing some delays here in the state in a few locations on the second shot, but we're seeing probably more of it nationwide because of the slowdown in the transportation of the vaccines to getting around. So some people are being shifted on a day or two from where they were supposed to get their second vaccine. So that's still going on. Now, an interesting piece just for you to think about, for those of you who drive cars, in the metro area, we've seen a significant uptick in car thefts, but it's not the whole car. It's a piece of the car. So if you happen to go out and you have a nice, quiet running car and you go out this morning or tomorrow and you crank it up in this big, loud noise, you have probably lost your catalytic converter. The catalytic converter contains a large number of highly valuable metals. And in Colorado and around the metro area, we've seen a large uptick in those in a metro area of just the catalytic converter being stolen off of cars. They're very easy to reach from underneath the car, a couple of minute or two, and they're gone. So if you get this, or if you have any reason to believe, try to make sure that if you can put your cars in a garage at night, keep the garages closed, get them locked up. This is a highly thought after, valuable piece of merchandise off your cars that people are looking for. We talked about a little bit about tonight with Juliet and I. It's not a big agenda. Hopefully we out. Again, I want to remind you that we're putting the pressure on Councilor Scully to keep us before midnight. Unfortunately, the last time we met, she did not make the midnight cutoff. We were after midnight. But last week she made up for it. She didn't have a council meeting last week, so we all got the Monday off. And hopefully everyone enjoyed President's Day if you were off that day. And we still have the Wednesday night food baskets are back on for a couple of weeks for Westminster. So those are back on at the City Park Rec Center on Wednesday nights. After the end of the month, the responsibility for that will be shifting over to Adams County. Now, we do not know yet where they're going to hold those, if they're going to stay with the Wednesday night or if they're going to shift it to another night or different locations. That's still being determined. Hopefully before the end of the month, we'll have the new information on the times and locations. Those food giveaways and those coupons are still in very high demand. Again, the last few times that we saw that open, we were still exceeding 1,000 people before we ran out of the products that were there. So hopefully we'll be able to see that continue under the auspice of Adams County, and they will be funding it going forward. So we're grateful for that. And to anybody, to the best of my knowledge, it will not be an issue where they're going to check to see that you're an Adams County resident. I think it's there to help anybody who needs help. So hopefully that will continue. We have some benefits coming up. There's a large statewide transportation meeting at 2 this afternoon with a governor and a panel of groups to talk about the potential of transportation funding coming in the legislative session this year. We are starting to get some early notices of some of the bills that are being proposed by the legislature. We'll hope to have more of those as we go further along. A number of bills are being looked at on how to change election laws in the state of Colorado. I have heard as many as 6 dealing with transportation funding, from the increase of fees to new taxes. All of those will start through the process. If they haven't in the latter part of last week, they will probably this week, could at least get introduced. So we'll continue to monitor those and how they will affect us. Now, we did hear this morning that a court decision came out of the lawsuit between the city of Thornton and Larimer County on the pipeline they were using to try to bring water in to add to the ability of Thornton to grow. The courts issued their decision over the weekend, and they found, in case of Larimer County, they sided with the county in rejecting the permit application from Thornton. Now, whether or not they're going to try to go to another extraction point for the water or not, it's not known at this time, since this court decision just came out. But without the ability to get the water out of the Platte River, where they were going to bring it from before, that really puts a hurt on Thornton being able to increase the amount of people they have in their city. But it also makes their storage capacity in Stanley Lake that much more valuable to them in being able to continue the development that they've already started. But other than that, it's kind of a normal week. What I will say normal for some of us. But a lot of stuff is still going on in the area of COVID infections. Now, on Thursday of last week, just so that people don't misunderstand, Metro Mayors has a standing meeting about once a month with CDPHE and most of the healthcare officials from around the metro area. So this past Thursday, we had that meeting. Regardless of how the dial changes from day to day or from week to week, what I will tell you that the consensus of almost every healthcare professional that was on the call, including the state, the last requirement that will get removed from any restriction is mask covering. So even if we get all of our restaurants fully back open, all of our business fully back, the likelihood is that we will continue to have the mandatory mask going forward until at least all the vaccines have been taken care of. They haven't set a determination on the date, but they're going to continue to monitor it. But just so people who are thinking, well, how soon can I get rid of the mask? Ladies and gentlemen, you're not getting rid of the mask for a long time. So we continue to ask people, even if you've received your vaccines, please continue to look at wearing your mask, social distancing, washing your hands, and doing whatever you can, not only to protect you and your family, but for others around you. We want to get out of this as soon as we can, but until we get to what they're continuing to refer to as herd immunity, we are probably going to see some level of restrictions going on. I'm sorry, Juliet, that's kind of what we've got. It's a lot of little bits of information going on, but short period of time.
Yes, it was a little bit of information, but it was kind of a lot of information from all over the place in small chunks, I feel like. We do have Emilio that's hopped onto the broadcast with us. Thank you, Emilio, for joining us. We have the mayor with us who's given us a nice update over the last 7 days in terms of numbers for COVID on Adams and Jeffco. He has also gone in detail on the vaccines and the delay in transport due to some of the storms that were taking place last week, and how that has also postponed some of those appointments that folks would have had around this time. Of course, last week there was no meeting because of President's Day for council to get together, but this evening there will be a meeting that does take place. He has also shared an update on the food distribution on Wednesday evening packs that have generally been available to community members that are in need. And the great news about that with Adams County really taking that over. So we'll see where that winds up and how that distribution continues to take place. You know, secretly, we definitely still want it here in Westminster, but we'll see where the county does take that. There is a question that's popped through from Emilio, and I'll pull that on the screen. And while I'm pulling that on the screen, know that at this point, we're really going to be taking up any comments or questions that you all might have. I will start asking the mayor just kind of in detail on some of the things that he may have shared or something as a follow-up from what he said in the past. But no, this is your opportunity. If you have a comment or question, to type it into the chat section for us to be able to take up and of course ask it of our mayor. Now, Mayor, we have a question that comes to us from Emilio. And his question relates to the masks. So moments ago, we discussed how you are a part of the Metro Mayors and have this continuous meeting with CDPHE, of course, the public health officials, and what does it look like, or what does it look like in the future as vaccines become more and more available, people are using them, and the discussion centered on, well, even as people are taking those vaccines and as that still is getting distributed, and we return to something of a back to normal, that masks would likely be the last to go. And so that's where this question, I feel, sparks from, Mayor. And is it more of a permanent thing that we're seeing, or what really would that mean for people?
Well, Emilio, thanks for the question, but I'll try to clarify again. I did not say it's going to be permanent. I just said it is going to be long-term. That the last thing that they are talking about of removing from restrictions of anything they have on their list will be the mask. So even if you've had the vaccine and you've had both shots, that does not mean you cannot get the infection. You can still get it. It just may not be as critical of an infection for you. So again, this is something that is probably going to be long-term, but I'm not using the word permanent because that means like it would never end. I'm not saying that, and they aren't saying that, but I would not handle a guess on when that would be. That will be up to how well we do with everything that we're working on today, keeping ourselves safe, saving others, making sure that we wear the mask we have today, social distancing, clean hands. And if you go to restaurants and stuff, if you take your mask off while you're at the table, that's great. But if you get up from the table and you walk away, try to always remember, put the mask back on, because now you're starting to get outside of that comfort zone of where people are supposed to stay in when they're not wearing a mask. Are you wearing masks in other areas? If you go into a local store, please make sure you're keeping the mask on, because there's people working in there that many of us know that there are people who are not eligible for the vaccine at this point. Someone like Juliet and others who you may come in contact with, who are likely not to see the opportunity to get vaccines until probably sometime late this summer, depending upon where they are, depending upon the amount of vaccines that we get in and how fast they can get them in, and getting both shots. So even if you have had both vaccines, it's still a critical period from that second vaccine for another 2 weeks to make sure that as much of the antibodies as can be generated are there. So let's keep doing what we're doing. we're seeing little spikes, little drops here and there. But every time we see it drop, we have to make sure it stays down and not come back up the next day, because then that means our count for that 14-day period starts over every time it comes back up and goes back down. But we need to get that 14 days to be steady for us.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you that were curious, I know the mayor earlier gave us a nice 7-day overview between the 15th until today, when he has pulled those numbers for us from both Jeffco and Adams County as it relates to the infection rates and, of course, the positivity rates. And I'm trying to quickly scroll through here. Anyways, they are included in here. The great news is that we're still at a low, although there's some slight increases in Adams County, but it's still at a much better position than we have been in the past. So, Mayor, is there anything on our agenda for City Council that folks might be interested in knowing about? I know the time to comment or submit in comments is until noon today, so I wonder if there's anything else.
Most of these are contract awards that we're looking at. We'll have the executive session, well, not executive, we'll have the City Council discussion on the COVID and updates. Will be on the last item agenda. And then we have a post-meeting item that has 2 items. We're talking about the development of the performance appraisals for those who are working for the City Council. And then we're going to have a short discussion on how we might be returning to City Council meetings or in-person potentials, how that's going to happen. So the council had a survey sent out to them last week. We'll probably see the results of that tonight. I am going to presume we will. But other than that, council will be talking about what it looks like about. We've also, I believe, haven't seen it yet, that the staff will be talking about what are some of our partners doing here, and the partners being the other municipalities around us. What are they doing about council meetings in person and stuff?
Excellent. Well, I've typed those into the comment section again. If folks are interested in either commenting or speaking during council, submitting in voice clips, they have until noon the day of council. So we have a little less than an hour if you guys want to hop over to the City of Westminster website and pull their agenda and see kind of what some of the contents are that the mayor has referenced and have any feedback on that. We do have a quick follow-up question that Emilio has shared our way, Mayor. And this question is speaking broadly on any plans for the public. So his question relates to, is there a available plan that's out there about how those restrictions will be lifted? Or is it more of it, and what it sounds like over the last few times is that it's kind of been as it's progressed or as it's moving, that's when things have also adjusted.
Yeah, Emilio, you really, the best thing I can tell you is to see where they are, how the restrictions are classified based upon the color code of the dial. Go to the state website and look at the restrictions on how they apply to each category, from restaurants to businesses, dine in, dine out. All of those type things are under the color code chart that's provided by the state. And again, remember, the county has to be in that color code for 2 weeks before they will allow people, like your 5-star program. That has to be in a place for 2 weeks before the 5-star program can move down a dial. But again, nobody is going to be allowed to move to green if they are in the 5-star program and they're currently in blue because of the lack of vaccines. And we just can't project how soon we'll get those vaccines in. We saw what happened because of weather instructions last week. We'll see how soon we can recover. My understanding is they thought they were behind somewhere near 6 million doses that were held up because of weather constrictions last week. They were hoping to get 2 million of those back on the road the first part of this week. So remember, I got 50 states to distribute those to. Colorado was hoping last week for 130,000. They didn't get any. So if you get those made up, plus what might pick up this week, how soon can we get those out to the distribution points and get those in arms?
And Mayor, the testing sites are still open over at Waterworld for folks that are interested in that as well to access it, right?
There, and also to the Fat Cats. Both of those are open.
Awesome. And I did have another question that's completely slipped my mind. Emilio is giving you a quick thank you, Mayor, as a follow-up to those answers that you've provided him. He does appreciate that. So quick recap, if anyone has any questions, make sure that you drop it into the comment section of this broadcast. If you watch this at a later point in time, know that you can give us that hashtag replay or ask us any questions. And if you have anything that's more of a personal situation, or you don't necessarily want to go in detail on it here on this live broadcast, know that you can always DM our page or email us at info@westminsterchamber.biz, and we'll be able to get the mayor to answer that question. I do see our U.S. Chamber partner, John Gonzalez, tuning into the broadcast. Thank you so much, John, for hopping on. That did remind me, we will have Adam Berg again around March the 10th to give us an update on all things at the state capitol, what's transpiring there, and go in a little bit of a deeper dive on some of those bills as they have progressed through the process as well. So if any of you are interested in that, you can join us around that time as well. So, Mayor, was there anything else that you did not get a chance to share with us that you may have on your mind before I really close this out for everybody? Or
nope, I think I give you about all I think is pertinent for right now.
Excellent.
But we receive questions. Either you get them direct or I will. We'll try to get the answers to them as soon as possible.
I remembered my question as you started talking. We also spoke about vaccines and, of course, the delay because of the storms. We mentioned the two-part vaccinations that are presently available to the age groups that's specified. There was a discussion that we had, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, about the single dose vaccines. I believe it was Johnson & Johnson was looking at producing. Did that progress anywhere? Do you have an update on that?
The best I know of is just what I've seen where most people have. It's still in the hands of the FDA to approve it and has not been released for use.
Okay, well, that's great to know. So we'll stay tuned on what's going on with that and hopefully have an update for folks as that continues to get released. Please continue to engage with us, stay in communication and contact so we know how our business community is doing. Make sure that you share this broadcast out to your network as well so folks can hear from their mayor on things that they have had a direct hand in, things, updates that have transpired at county level, and programs that we've been able to make available, like the food program, food insecurity, and such. So make sure that this is shared out to your network. Again, if you watch this later on and we're no longer live, give us that hashtag replay so I know that you tuned into the broadcast with us and enjoyed some of the content that was on here. And of course, we are back to a normalized schedule as far as our live broadcast. I know I pulled back on some of my speakers because last week was our live drawing for the We Love Westy. So we're getting back into the swing of things. So make sure that you continue to check back on our page to see what updates we have as it relates to those broadcasts that we will be holding for you. So again, make sure that you follow the page, share this out to your network, give us the hashtag replay if you're tuning in later, watch and rewind this out. And if you have any questions, drop it into the comment section or email us. Mayor, I'm giving you back, it looks like a whopping 2 minutes of your morning. I hope you enjoy that to the fullest before your next meeting that you have. And thank you everyone for tuning into the broadcast.